In the shadowy jungles of Colombia, where the air was thick with humidity and the scent of danger, the cartel reigned supreme. It was a world ruled by violence, betrayal, and the insatiable hunger for power. At the heart of it all was Javier Morales, a man whose name struck fear into the hearts of even the most hardened criminals. Javier was not just a drug lord, he was a king, and his kingdom was built on blood and cocaine. Javier's rise to power was as brutal as it was swift. He started as a low-level enforcer for the Morales cartel, a family-run empire that had dominated the drug trade for decades. But Javier was no ordinary foot soldier. He was cunning, ruthless, and had a vision that extended far beyond the jungles of Colombia. When the cartel's leader, his own uncle, was gunned down in a botched raid, Javier saw his opportunity. He eliminated his rivals one by one, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. By the time the dust settled, Javier was the undisputed kingpin, and the Morales cartel was his to command. Under Javier's rule, the cartel flourished. Cocaine flowed out of Colombia like water, flooding the streets of Miami, New York, and beyond. Javier's network was vast, his connections impeccable. He bribed politicians, corrupted law enforcement, and even had a few generals in his pocket. But with great power came great enemies, and Javier's empire was far from secure. The first threat came from within. Carlos Rivera, Javier's most trusted lieutenant, had grown tired of playing second fiddle. Carlos was a man of ambition, and he saw Javier's success as a blueprint for his own rise. One fateful night, Carlos made his move. He ambushed Javier's convoy on a remote mountain road, unleashing a hail of bullets that left Javier's men dead and his armored car riddled with holes. But Javier was no easy target. He emerged from the wreckage, guns blazing, and turned the ambush into a massacre. Carlos was captured, and Javier made an example of him. In front of his men, Javier personally executed Carlos, his cold eyes never leaving his former friends as he pulled the trigger. But the violence didn't end there. Word of the betrayal spread, and rival cartels saw an opportunity to strike. The Gutierrez Cartel, a brutal organization from the north, declared war on Javier. The streets of Medellin became a battleground, with gunfights erupting in broad daylight and bodies piling up in the gutters. Javier responded with ruthless efficiency, ordering hits on Gutierrez's top lieutenants and burning their cocaine labs to the ground. The war escalated, drawing in other cartels and turning Colombia into a war zone. Amid the chaos, Javier's personal life began to unravel. His wife, Isabella, had grown tired of the constant danger and begged him to leave the life behind. But Javier was consumed by his empire, and his love for Isabella was no match for his thirst for power. When Isabella threatened to leave him, Javier's response was chilling. "You're either with me," he said, his voice cold as steel, "or you're against me." Isabella fled that night, taking their young daughter with her. Javier never saw them again. The final blow came from an unexpected source, the DEA. For years, Javier had evaded capture, his network of informants and bribes keeping him one step ahead of the law. But the DEA had a new weapon, Agent Maria Sanchez, a relentless investigator with a personal vendetta against the cartel. Maria had grown up in Medellin, and she had seen firsthand the destruction wrought by Javier's empire. She infiltrated his organization, gathering evidence and turning his men against him. One by one, Javier's allies fell until he was left with nowhere to hide. The end came in a remote jungle compound where Javier had retreated with his last loyal men. The DEA surrounded the compound, and a fierce firefight broke out. Javier fought like a man possessed, his rage fueling his every move. But it was no use. Outnumbered and outgunned, Javier's men were picked off one by one. When the smoke cleared, Javier stood alone, his body riddled with bullets. He collapsed to his knees, clutching a photo of Isabella and their daughter in his blood-stained hands. As Javier took his final breath, the jungle fell silent. The Morales cartel was no more, its empire reduced to ashes. But the legacy of Javier Morales lived on, a cautionary tale of power, betrayal, and the high cost of ambition. In the end, the only thing Javier left behind was blood and cocaine.